Welcome back to another FPL video. This will be the best budget players, and it's quite an extensive list covering a lot of different clubs and players of different price points and different positions. So in the goalkeepers, we're looking at those between 4 and 4.5 million, defenders from 4 million to 4.5, midfielders from 4.5 to 6 million, and for forwards 4.5 million to 6 million as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below about each single one of these picks. Of course, we did get news about Luton Town versus Burnley being postponed in Game Week 2, and also Manchester City against Brentford in Game Week 18 as expected because of the Club World Cup. But let's get straight into this. Let me know, like I said, all your thoughts. Share this video around, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. It's very much appreciated as always. But let's jump straight into this video and delve into this. Over the past month or so, there have been many murmurings that Areola will be slowly eased in as the #1 goalkeeper for West Ham, and if that's the case, we've got a potential 4 million bargain on our hands. In the 2020-21 season, when he was the main goalkeeper for Fulham, he accumulated 124 points, so he definitely has a decent ceiling and baseline because of the saves and bonus points that he can create. But in terms of clean sheets and all of that, I'm not expecting too much, especially in the first 5 game weeks. And once again, you still have Fabianski, who's been a great servant to West Ham, and he could still be the #1 goalkeeper. So even if Areola is gradually eased into it, it doesn't mean it will happen from game week 1. So I'd be a bit apprehensive about this one. He's already owned by almost 30% of the game, but I'm not really too keen on Areola or even Fabianski for that matter. But he's got much lower ownership, Fabianski, and he's very good in terms of making penalty saves. But if Areola is the starting goalkeeper from game week 1, then of course you can't go wrong by having Areola as your second choice goalkeeper. I discussed Flecking in a previous video talking about the best differential, so be sure to check that out. His ownership is around 3.4%, but a bit similar to the Areola situation, a lot depends on David Raya, who is still the #1, but he's heavily linked with a move away, and you would expect David Raya to leave the club and Flecking to come in as the #1, and he had a terrific season for Freiburg, helping them finish 5th, so close to getting into those Champions League places in the Bundesliga, but he did a terrific job making 109 saves. He didn't make a single penalty save out of 6 attempts, but he's still very good for saves. I think he can get some bonus points along the way. I'm not so sure if he's going to reach 166 points, which is what David Raya did last season to be the #1 FPL goalkeeper, but I think Flecking could get quite close at least, and he's got some very good fixtures, not just for the first 5, but also beyond that, and that's why I'm quite keen to get 2, possibly even 3 Brentford players, but I think 2 is the sweet spot, and Flecking, if he does become the #1 goalkeeper, as we all expect, I think he could be the best goalkeeper period, pound for pound. I also discussed Johnston as a differential goalkeeper, and he's got even lower ownership than Flecking, coming in around 1.2%, and he also made 26 saves, kept 3 clean sheets, and got 36 FPL points overall with 5 bonus, and he came in quite late into the season under Roy Hodgson, and you would expect him to retain that spot over David Guaita, and he's also got some kind of mixed bag fixtures for the first 5, but Crystal Palace are 5th in terms of the best chance of a clean sheet against Sheffield United away, according to Draft Hound, so I'd highly recommend you checking the link in the description below and checking out Draft Hound and possibly upgrading to the Pro tier for even more features such as customizing your team and having suggestions by the assistant manager. But I think Johnston is a good player to have and probably the best Crystal Palace asset apart from one that we're going to talk about later on in this video. Jordan Pickford is quite a popular option, coming in around 16% ownership, and he made the same amount of saves with 124 as he got FPL points last season. He kept 8 clean sheets, got 10 bonus points, and I think he could be a pretty decent asset in certain game weeks. You look at Fulham at home, Wolves at home, and Sheffield United away in the first 5 game weeks of the season. Those are some possible really good fixtures for Everton, and they also have a good record against Arsenal, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kept a clean sheet in a game like that, as they did last season in Goodison Park. But I'm still not convinced about Pickford and Everton assets in general. Sean Dyche is a good manager. He did really well to keep them up, but they barely survived. It took them until Game Week 38 to seal their status as a Premier League club, but I'm still not convinced about Everton assets, and I do admit Pickford is probably the best way to cover them defensively, even over Tarkowski, Mikalenko and a few others that you might consider, but I'm still not too convinced about all of their assets in general, and I'm not so sure if Pickford is a better 4.5 million option than Flecking or Johnston. Bernd Leno had a fantastic season for Fulham, making 144 saves. He got 142 FPL points in the process, 17 bonus points, which is crazy for a goalkeeper. He kept 8 clean sheets and his ownership is around 10.7%. In terms of the first 5 fixtures of the season though, I don't see a clean sheet against Brentford, Arsenal or Man City. Against Luton Town at home though, I think that's probably a golden fixture in Game Week 5. Everton away isn't too shabby either, and even in those fixtures where Fulham concede, Leno can still get a few save points and possibly bonus depending on the result and the way the game goes. I think he's a really good option at 4.5 million, but once again, I probably give the edge to Flecken if he becomes the #1 goalkeeper, because I think Brentford are just a much better club and team than Fulham at this moment in time. But of course, I could be wrong. Things change very quickly. Sheffield United finished 8th in one Premier League season, then got relegated in the next, finishing last. And I'm not saying that could happen to Brentford, but you just never know in football. And I still think Leno could rival Flecken as the best 4.5 million goalkeeper. I think those two are probably the best, with Johnston in 3rd, and then you've probably got the likes of Pickford in 4th. Now we're moving on to the defenders, and Bayer comes in as a 4 million defender. Now the issue is the other alternative 4 million defender that I'm going to talk about very soon is also blanking in Game Week 2, because we've got the news, as I discussed earlier in this video, that Burnley versus Luton Town will become a blank game week in Game Week 2. Luton Town requested the game to be postponed because of works on their stadium, and it has happened. So Bayer will be blanking in Game Week 2. It shouldn't be an issue if you've got decent squad depth, and he also faces Man City at home in Game Week 1, which isn't great. Aston Villa at home and Tottenham at home. That's a really poor start to the season for the first 4 game weeks. Then it's a decent fixture against Nottingham Forest away, but that's still not a guarantee of a clean sheet. So Bayer in the Championship last season got 1 goal, 3 assists, and also 5 yellow cards, and he started 29 times and came off the bench once. So he was a crucial part to Burnley being promoted and also winning the Championship in record-breaking style. But because of those opening fixtures, I'm not too convinced. Of course, he's only a 4 million defender, and if you've got the squad depth, it's not going to be a big issue, but I certainly wouldn't be starting him in the next few game weeks to start the season. And if anything, you'd be looking at game weeks such as Game Week 5 to maybe put him in your starting 11, but it's going to be a rare occurrence, and really what he's going to do is sit on your bench and be an enabler for your squad. The other 4 million defender I was referring to is Bell. He also blanks in Game Week 2 for the reasons discussed, and he's got pretty poor fixtures to start the season, with Brighton away in Game Week 1, Chelsea away in Game Week 3, West Ham at home in Game Week 4. But it's still not too shabby. It's not the worst fixtures you'll ever see. He comes in at 4 million. His ownership is around 21.9%, and he has just finished his international duties with Jamaica in the Gold Cup, and they were the surprise package of the tournament, reaching the semi-final, and Bell even scored in one of those rounds to help them advance to the next round. So he did a very good job. He scored once in the Championship last season, provided 1 assist. He also picked up 3 yellow cards, which is very impressive considering he started 43 times and came off the bench once to make it a total of 44 appearances. So he was an essential cog of that Luton Town team that got promoted, and I think he's one of the best 4 million defenders, and that's why he comes in with such high ownership. And it's between him and Bayer, I think, as the best 4 million defenders at your disposal. West Ham United have plenty of options around 4.5 million, such as Soufal, even Crezo, who was a terrific FPL option a few seasons ago. But I think Agud could be the pick of the bunch here, and he scored 19 goals throughout his whole career. He's got 58 FPL points last season, but he did pick up a few injury problems. And of course, he was absolutely amazing in the World Cup for Morocco. And once he got injured, I think things fell apart a bit for them. But he is a really good defender, and he could be the one, I think, at 4.5 million for West Ham, who could do the job for you. But of course, there won't be too much, I think, to separate all of those 4.5 million West Ham defenders, and even when we look at some of the other options later on in this video. But he comes in at 0.8% ownership, so he is quite a good differential here. And in fixtures such as Luton away in Game Week 4 and Bournemouth away in Game Week 1, that's where Agud could come into a league of his own. But then you look at the other fixtures, of course, you probably don't expect too many clean sheets, especially against Brighton away and Man City at home. And I also think Chelsea will be much improved, and they could score a few goals past West Ham. But let me know if you have any other options in mind from West Ham as your 4.5 million defender of choice. Mark Gay comes in at 4.5 million as well. His ownership is 2.3%. He scored once, assisted 0 times, and got 2 bonus points. And he was just shy of the 100-point mark in FPL last season. He's got some great fixtures, like we discussed with Johnston earlier. Sheffield United away in Game Week 1, where Crystal Palace are actually ranked quite highly in terms of clean sheet probabilities, and he also faces Wolves at home in game week 4. The other fixtures aren't great, but I think in game week 1 and 4, that's where Crystal Palace can keep their clean sheets, and Gay could be a very good option and a rotational defender who can come in from time to time and also provide that squad depth that you might need. So Mark Gay is my favourite Crystal Palace defender. There's not much separating him and Mitchell and the other defenders as well, but honestly, I think Johnston is the best way to cover Crystal Palace defensively, assuming he retains his spot as the #1 goalkeeper. We talked about Ben Mee in the best differentials video, and I also mentioned the likes of Pinnock and Rico Henry, and here they feature in today's video. And Pinnock comes in at 1.8% ownership. He scored 3 times last season, and he had 5 big chances, scoring 112 FPL points overall. Some very good fixtures for the first 7-8 game weeks of the season, and I think he's a really good option to start the season with. Yes, you might not put him in your starting 11 against Tottenham at home, and also in fixtures such as Newcastle away, but from game weeks 2 to 4, why not put Pinnock in your starting 11 and then put him on the bench when he's got those tougher fixtures? But honestly, Brentford are also a very good proposition. They kept clean sheets against the likes of Man City last season and did a double over the treble winners. And I think Pinnock is a solid option, and he is the best differential from the Brentford defenders. Is he going to score more points than Rico Henry and Ben Mee? Maybe not, but I don't see too much separating all 3 of those, especially the 2 4.5 million defenders, Pinnock and Rico Henry. Brentford have only had 1 pre-season friendly so far, a 1-1 draw against Boreham Wood, and Rico Henry provided the assist there. He has the creativity from the left-back position. He got 3 assists last season, didn't score a single goal, but he also made 23 key passes, which was very impressive for a 4.5 million defender. He also scored 112 FPL points, just like Ethan Pinnock did last season. He's got a bit higher ownership at 5.8%, but he's still differential nonetheless. He's got lower ownership as well than Ben Mee. He comes in at 0.5 million cheaper. I think all 3 of those are good FPL options in their own right, but just as I said with Crystal Palace, I think Flecken or David Raya, whoever is the #1 goalkeeper in the end, would be the best way to cover Brentford defensively, and I think that's the way to go from game week 1. Matty Cash, the forgotten man from last season, he was really good 2 seasons ago, and that's why he had a lot of hype going into the last campaign. He didn't quite deliver, a lot of injury problems as well along the way. He comes in at 3.6% ownership. He didn't score a single goal, but provided 2 assists, got 3 bonus points and 57 FPL points overall. And I think fixtures such as Everton at home, Burnley away and Crystal Palace at home look pretty favourable there for Aston Villa, who have been fantastic since Unai Emery has taken over. But despite that, I don't see clean sheets against Newcastle or Liverpool, so that's where you could rotate him with another 4.5 million defender we have discussed today, or even one of those 4 million defenders like Bell and Bayer. But their fixtures aren't that great, and I'm not really expecting a clean sheet from those 2 either, but it's just something else to bear in mind. And I think having good squad depth is crucial. Having at least 1 or 2 decent options on your bench, you can come in when Matty Cash or anyone else that we've discussed today has a bad fixture, or you don't really have the confidence of them delivering FPL points. We're covering plenty of Aston Villa defenders today, and Pau Torres has just been added to FPL. He comes in at 4.5 million, and you would expect him to be the most nailed-on Aston Villa defender alongside Tyrone Mings. His ownership is around 1%, but surely that will increase as more people realise he's been added to the game. He only scored once last season, provided 0 assists, but his XG was 2.39, and he won 2 penalties, which would count as assists, of course, if the penalty is converted. And I think Pau Torres could be the best Aston Villa defender. It's really close between him, Matty Cash, and Tyrone Mings. Let me know which one you would pick out of those 3, but Pau Torres is a serious consideration for our FPL teams at this price point, and he's just as nailed as about anyone you can mention from any club in the league. Tyrone Mings might not be the biggest differential you will see. He comes in at 16.5% ownership, but he's got a bit of goal threat. He can get some bonus points, as you can see. 17 is very impressive for a 4.5 million defender, and I think he could actually surpass what he did last season. He scored once, provided 3 assists, and got 130 FPL points. Aston Villa should be better from the get-go. They have been quite impressive since Unai Emery has taken over, and despite them facing the likes of Newcastle away and Liverpool away in the first 4 game weeks of the season, the other fixtures look pretty good and promising. I could see 1 or 2 clean sheets in one of the other games, such as Everton at home and possibly Crystal Palace at home, and I think Unai Emery will continue to build upon the good work he did last season, and Tyrone Mings could be arguably the best 4.5 million defender in the game if it wasn't for a certain individual coming up next. You probably guessed it, it's Sven Botman. We were all surprised to see him come in at 4.5 million. The only kind of caveat to this signing, if you decide to go for him, is the fact that he's got some pretty awful fixtures to start the season Aston Villa at home isn't great. I think that's probably the best chance of a clean sheet they have alongside Brentford at home. But then Man City away, Liverpool at home, Brighton away. I mean, these aren't great fixtures. To be fair to Newcastle, last season they kept the clean sheet against Brighton at the Amex Stadium, a 0-0 draw. I think it was in Gameweek 2. But against Man City and Liverpool, there's not really a great chance of a clean sheet. They lost both games last season at the Etihad and also both games to Liverpool. So I'm not really too convinced about Sven Botman from the get-go, but he's a good rotational option. And even in some of these tougher games, Newcastle can grind out a result and also do a pretty good job. Newcastle aren't the type of team to be battered, so that's a good thing. You're not going to expect minus points very often or 0-1 pointers, but I'm just not too convinced about Botman as a short-term option. If you're going for him, it's really as a medium to long-term placeholder for the first 8-10 game weeks of the season where the fixtures start to get better for Newcastle. He comes in at 31% ownership. It's probably risen since then. He scored 0 times, provided 2 assists, and got 8 bonus points and 129 FPL points overall. So Fabian Schär has more goal threat, but Botman actually offers more FPL points per 90, and I could see a similar trend heading into this season. I see no reason really to go for Fabian Schär over Sven Botman, considering the fixtures and the extra 0.5 million price tag on top of it. Since we're discussing so many budget players, I'm splitting this into 2 parts. So this part 1 will be for the best goalkeepers and defenders as budget options, and in the next one it will be midfielders and forwards. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 300 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships, Discord server, and the FPL League. All of that is there. I wish you all the best of luck for the upcoming FPL season. Enjoy the summer break, and I'll see you next time.